What's up, Modified Gang? Now, the last time you saw one of our videos, you saw we were having trouble with the 4th gen and that standpipe we were customizing to fit up to it. Now, we've got that welded and we got that part ready to go on, which we're going to be doing today. But also, on top of that, we're going to be finding out, hopefully, what's wrong with this Mercedes behind us. Now, you know from the last video on the Benz that this thing, when it fires up, the whole passenger side bank is not firing. So now with today, we're gonna have somebody come over with the special tooling or the special scanners for this thing and hopefully can pinpoint what exactly is wrong with this thing. Okay guys, so we had this thing checked out. We had the guy come over here with the proper tooling and scan tools, that is, and scan the engine. And from what we can tell is the actual cam position sensor wheels, so those wheels on the cam position modules up front here are not adjusted right. So those are actually supposed to be timed as well in addition to the cams. So the cams were timed right, but those position wheels were not, and we didn't even know that you had to do that. So with that said, we actually have to go back into it. I mean, not everything, not as deep as we went before, but, you know, the valve cover is going to have to come off and, you know, that sort of thing. So we've already got it kind of halfway tore down now. We've got the fan out, we've got the belt out, you know, the miscellaneous stuff, and we're just going to kind of go through and get those off. So when we get the cam position sensor wheels back off, we'll catch back up with you guys and show you guys what we did wrong and how we're going to fix that. But for now, let's go ahead out there to the 4th gen and continue making our bracket. Here's the latest revision to our part. Now, if you remember before we went through, we had this welded and capped off here, and it was pretty smooth. There was nothing on it. We thought about going through and welding a bracket onto the side of it, but that wouldn't work just as far as putting it in goes because there's really no room to bolt it in. So what we did is we put a stud on top, and we're just going to make a bracket off the stud and do it to somewhere else on like a bolt or a stud on the engine itself. So now with all this together, all we have to do is start making our bracket and get this thing on and get the coolant in it. We got the standpipe 2.0 in here. Basically, that's with our stud welded on top, which is a bolt. And it looks like we're going to make a bracket that comes off that top exhaust manifold stud right there and come down and just go to that stud there. And that should hopefully give us a strong enough support or mount to keep this tube from, you know, sliding in and out like it did. So we're going to go ahead and fab that up and we'll get back to it. Okay guys, so this is what we've come up with so far. So what we're going to do, like I said earlier, we're still going to run it from that top stud, but instead of having it come from the bottom, there's really not enough space there with that heat shield. So we're going to have it come off from the top, kind of like the bracket that's already there. So it'll go in like so. And it'll be just like that. So, and then all we have to do now is get that other 90-degree bend down at the bottom to go to the pipe. So that's going to wrap it up for the bends and everything we got to put into this metal for our bracket. So all we need to do now is put some primer and paint on this thing and it'll be ready to go in. Okay, so we got the bracket over there drying, but before we put it back on and start putting coolant into this thing, we first need to get the old coolant out of the overflow bottle back there in the back. Now, you can take it off, but I really don't feel like doing that, so I just went and got an $8 pump from Walmart, and I just hooked that up to the hose that already goes to the overflow, because that goes to the bottom of the bottle, and I'm just going to pump it out into a bottle and go from there. So here's the final product for our bracket that was made, and as you can see, it's all painted up and in its final shape. So now all we have to do is get this thing onto the truck and get some coolant in it. All right guys, there it is. It's all in and it's tightened up and ready to go. Now that nut behind here that's underneath here, I don't know if you can see it well, there it is right there, is hard to get to. You have to use wrenches to get to it, and it's still kind of hard getting it from this side because this EGR delete plate is in the way, but you can get to it. Like I said, just be patient with it, getting to it. And the reason we did it that way, up and over and down, is because with this heat shield, you're really limited on, you know, space. But I do see if you were able, or if you want to remove this heat shield, you've got like another inch of space underneath, and you could run a bracket that goes underneath the nut and up instead of over and down, and that would make it easier. You could put a ratchet and a socket on it and tighten it right up. Okay guys, so that's going to wrap it up on our mod. As you can see then there in the engine bay, everything looks so much more less cluttered and so much more cleaner. We put the crankcase vent tube back into the intake for now. We're actually going to be doing a video on that quite soon, on how to mod that, and you got to go into the valve cover and everything a little bit with that, but I'll show you guys that later. But for now, we're ready to put some coolant in this thing and to see if our mod actually works as good as it looks. Alright, so we just got back from the test drive. The coolant temps look the same as before. Everything's pretty constant. Although it is a little bit cooler outside, or actually a good bit cooler outside tonight or this time than last time, because it's actually kind of transitioned into fall since the last time we had this thing running, believe it or not, which wasn't too long. But anyway, the coolant temps look the same, so that's pretty good. I don't have a trailer behind it yet, and I haven't really towed with it yet. I'll have to wait for that later on in the week when I hook it up to the trailer, which this thing doesn't really tow heavy anyway, and the temps stay around the same temperature. So I think this was a success. I mean, we have the look we wanted, basically a cleaned up side where the exhaust manifold is. We got the leak stopped, which was that O-ring kit we got from the EGR delete kit that was put on this truck. And that's about it, guys. I'd say that's a success. So with that said, guys, thank you for watching. I know this took a little bit longer than some of the other videos. It was a two-part series just because we had to make our own parts. But make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next